companionship, but if you're married, then you should never, no matter what your situation, in my opinion, no matter if you have to care for your spouse for 40 years, that to me is your obligation, and to not break the bonds of marriage, I think is not really right from a theoretical point of view. I understand why people might do that, but I think it's better not to.
Here.
The thing that most concerned me is what you said about children and homosexuality and that. I think sometimes when they're teenagers, they might know that they have an orientation, as a homosexual. But when I was growing up, no one ever expressed that. There was probably people in the high school or something. But for somebody at 13, I think this is way too young. I've never heard of such a thing that, they would actually, follow up on that. That is, I think it's almost a fad now. I mean, there are some true homosexuals, that is their orientation. I think that they should live as they see fit. I mean, what else can they do? But there's also a little bit of a fad, like to be bisexual. Oh, this is cool, and everything's okay. I hear this from a lot of young people, like, who are in favor of gay marriage and that. I'm just not. I think that's not really marriage.
I think my kids, like Antonio probably is slow. He's small and but I see his friends. They're he had friends that they're from kindergarten, and they have been very, very close. So then they come home, and we go there, and we do things out of school. And I see every single one, he has a friend who is 6'4", I bet. He's like, and he's called Joey, and everybody, oh, Joey. Because, he's just growing, but he doesn't get into meet his body yet when he grows again. He's a huge boy, and you can see his face. He's still a boy, but with a big, huge body. And we hear them talking and all that, and I told Lou, even when physically he is that big, I personally don't think that they develop sexually. You know what I mean? They maybe just, he's 6 feet tall, but you cannot see any things in them or when they talk or anything. They're not even, except for one, they're not even, like some of them were dating, but the dating was going to the mall with the girl, and there's no kissing, according to what Antonio said. They don't even kiss. So because he comes, they're not kissing, they're not holding hands, they just go together someplace. And that's age appropriate. And that's okay, yeah. That to me was, okay, well, that's fine. But I don't see these boys as much as the girls. The girls are different, but I don't see any of these boys, how I can say, that little thing of flirting, like the girls do have at that age. They start flirting with the boys, and they start getting like, oh, here comes the boys. And you can see them, like, they see the boys coming and and the boys see the girls. They are really, I see that, and I go like, and I told my husband, look at that, and I feel like the girls are my children more in that way, you can see them because I go pick up Veronica, and these guys come from the middle school to wait for the little brothers and sisters in the elementary school, so then they're in group, boys and girls. And it's funny because the girls walk by themselves, and then the boys walk by themselves. But if the girls are there before, and then the boys are coming, they and when the boys see the girls coming, they just, and some of them even go like, here they come, But anyway, so that's why I don't see that, like, they don't know. To me, it's like, they really don't know. What are they doing saying, I'm going to date that guy, another guy or another girl.
I don't know, from my experience, when I was in high school in 13, that back then, that was like the peace and love era. I don't see this as anything close to what was going on back then. I think this is retarded compared to that. I mean, sincerely. Having sexual relations at 13 in my circle of friends, unfortunately, was pretty common. I really mean so it just depends upon 13. My best friends, 13.
I think
Girls?
it depends very
Girls.
much on.
Girls and boys. I mean, that was uncommon. You know,
Really?
that was,
You never told me that.
it wasn't me, man, it wasn't me, but,
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, so, you know, that was all Woodstock and,
Well, I'm thinking that, yes, it's a time when they're curious, and it's kind of, whether, how involved it is does depend on how developed they are, and what, you know, girls do get more curious sooner than boys, I know, and all that.
It's
But,
only water.
I think it's an experimental time, and they've heard about homosexuality now. We hadn't, and, or if we had, you know, it wasn't popular, or it wasn't anything to consider possibility even, almost, unless that was really your big deal. So I think it's just an experimentation time.
It's so highly politicized. There is so much, there's so much recruitment at the school level that it's, Tim deals with this extensively at his school, and it's too bad he's not here to talk. We could get an update, but it's highly politicized. There's a lot of recruitment that goes on. It's considered cool, and I think that the kids who are 11, 12, and 13, and 14 years of age need an orientation. They need to be taught what, how to approach this. They're looking for information. And if we leave it up to the media, if we leave it up to what's going on television, what's going on in their schools, because there are administrators who are actively recruiting, they're going to have a great deal of confusion. So we have an expert here. I put the question to you. I came to you once and said, look, my kid's 12 years old now, he's going to be 13. Am I to instruct him that he is to remain a virgin until he marries? And if I remember correctly, your orientation was that it was unrealistic in today's world, and there was no possibility of doing that. So I went home and I had a conversation about the technology and about now he needed to accept responsibility for the fact that he was capable of producing new life, and that if he was going to get involved, he needed to be real clear about the technology and have a discussion with the young woman as to where she was at as far as abortion was concerned, about birth control, all those kinds of things, and actually have a rational conversation before just starting to, no, I'm serious. I mean, and you know,
He took the fun out of it.
he said to me, Dad, you're the only one that ever gives me these kinds of orientations. Nobody ever talks to me about it. Nobody ever talks to anybody about this kind of stuff. The sex is wonderful. It's a great form of communication. It's something to look forward to. It's not something to be afraid of. And so anyhow, this is the end of the conversation.
Repeat the question, please.
I wanted an orientation about gay and lesbian and our children participating in those kinds of activities.
Is also lesbian or
Yeah.
also gay?
Yeah.
Even though, yes. I know that the experience that you have to have in your life, each one is different. But we have to be sure that they don't become confused. I mean, if you're born with those characteristics, with those traditions, with those tendency, you have to see if real you have that kind of tendency, and we need to respect all of those things. For instance, I remember a child who used to be our neighbor, and his father is a doctor. And when the child started to his behavior, he was a man, and he started to speak with like a woman and doing everything like a woman. He hit him and said, "You have to be to have to be men. And every day he was hitting, but he repressed and he didn't change. He had all the things when he born, and then he projected all of those things. But other people became confused because they don't know which one have to relate, which one has to touch them. And then in that confusion, then maybe they became sinner or they became very bad because they did something that other people don't know and they don't express and they don't communicate with you what happened with them. Maybe somebody invite them to do some games, to do some plays, and that sexual activity, they didn't realize what is going to happen and they keep silent. What did they do? But they have a big block that later they don't want nobody touch them. They have a big complex, and that is the things that we need to understand. But if one person has that tendency and they have to live that experience, we need to respect that. In this moment, you know that in all the countries are awakening new rules that we cannot discriminate any people depending on his position. And also we need to respect that experience that they need to live.
So I think now you were saying, the media has a lot of information for children, and I was in, sometimes young people, they have these patterns like, say, Paris Hilton is a very, everybody wants to be like Britney Spears, like these are models. These are roles that the young people are very impressed. And then they see, they kiss in the mouth. Britney Spears, Paris Hilton, all these beautiful girls, very outgoing. I hear that they do things. Why a 13-year-old girl don't want to be like Paris Hilton if it's this a model or this is a role? They want to experience that too. So yeah, in most of the cases, I think it's something that, like, moda. What do you say, moda? Style. It's let's try this spectacular or thing or this cool thing, because I think it's less the people that were born that way. So I think it's a challenge, like now for men, I think it's a challenge, the women, new women that can work, that can decide for herself, that can do things for herself. I mean, it's something, it's weird now. It's like it's the role that you have learned when you were a child as your father or your mother. They're not working anymore. Let's try something else. It's very scary to have a new woman that can work, that can take decisions, that can live on herself, that she can take, at least I know again, it depends very much on the culture. Like I see that in Mexico there is, the new woman is beyond, it's far from where we were. They work, they take decisions, they can run their own house, and I think that is to some, it makes it easy how it functions to men. It will be much easier than to find out how to challenge with a woman. So I think it's these roles too, they are learned, they're trying, let's see what we do. It's like, if everybody smokes marijuana, let's smoke marijuana because this is a style. Yeah, it's like, it's a new style of doing things. So I think it's very few people that really were born like that. I know some men that are gay, and I have talked to them, and we have been friends. And most of them, they've been very abused by their father. They were abused physically, educated. They have a very strong father that will